fourth chapter of In Love at Ease on embracing all. This chapter is all about how Swamishri, who was a spiritual leader to millions of people, embraced all, especially those who are underrepresented or repressed or minority members of a community. This particular section of this chapter is all about how he embraced those of a different religion than his or a different race. Once, while in Chicago, he asked me if I took time away from my seva, my selfless service in the kitchen, to do prarthana and dandavat in the main mandir shrine each morning, a kind of worship that you offer to an image of the divine in Hindu culture. I nodded affirmatively. How many dandavats do you do in each shrine? A dandavat is a kind of bowing down. And do you go to the side shrines? He asked. I was silent. He asked again. I offer 5 prostrations in each of the central shrines, but then I need to rush back to the kitchen for seva. Swamishri was offended. Does God not sit in the side shrines? Have you read the Shiksha Patri? Bhagwan Swaminarayan instructs us to revere all of God's manifestations, starting tomorrow. 1 dandavat in each side shrine as well. Unless you are unwell or in pain, no excuses. It was a valuable lesson for me to respect and revere all, to embrace all with a nod to submission and humility. And there's subtext here, which you might not realize if you've never been in a Hindu temple, which is that there are many different forms of the divine that people look up to. And here, the author, speaking in the first person, Yogi Trivedi, he is probably having reverence for just one form of the divine. So he goes to the main altar and offers his dandavats. And on other places in the temple, there's probably different forms of the divine. And so Swamishri is telling him to have reverence equally for all forms of the divine, not just your own personal Ishta Devata, the personal form of the divine that speaks to you. Swamishri extended that reverence to other houses of worship and sites of pilgrimage as well. Swamishri knew that the best way to create dialogue was not just through lectures and summits, but by showing reverence through visits and lending assistance in building and creating these sites of reverence. Interfaith dialogue begins with effort and right intent. Swamishri put in the effort to meet and gather religious leaders on several occasions. When I used to read or hear about Swamishri's visits, I would often take them for granted. It is what religious leaders do. They meet each other. It was only when I started to teach and lead trips of students to houses of worship myself that I realized just how difficult it was. Not all houses of worship were willing to have students or believers of diverse backgrounds visit. I often had to negotiate conditions with imams and rabbis. I also received letters from students' religious guides asking for an exemption because they did not feel comfortable with their congregants visiting a mosque, a synagogue, a Buddhist or Hindu temple with idols or statues. Though I was always respectful of their wishes, I wondered when and how we would be able to build a society with people interacting with those who were different and with those whom they historically were known to clash with. It was a conversation that I had with my guru in 2006 when I first started visiting other faith-based communities as a journalist in New York City. As a naive young man, I asked if I could visit other houses of worship and cover them in a positive light. Swamishri stopped me mid-sentence. Unless there is something significantly wrong, you should always cover them in a positive light. People make mistakes, but that does not mean that the religions or the institutions are themselves bad. Sometimes you may go in with a preconceived notion about a religion or a community because of what you had heard at home or from people in your close circle. Leave those biases at the door and walk in with a fresh perspective. Go there and learn about the faith and their beliefs before you ever write or say a word. Do not dramatize religion so more people read your story or watch you on television. Be fair and constructive. Do not just think about your story of your career. Think about how your story will affect people's faith and unity within society. Write to bring people together, not to show hatred and animosity. Javu, visit, Janvu, learn, and Bhavlu. Rather, Bhalvu, integrate with everyone. Javu, Janvu, Bhalvu. Visit, learn, integrate with everyone. Learning from and appreciating others creates a precious bond of sanjam, understanding, and adar, respect. This bond is the basis for samvadita, harmony, and vishvashanti, world peace. With that, I had just received the unabridged version of Covering Religion in the Media, a course that I would go on to teach with my colleague, Professor Ari Goldman, at the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia University. We traveled around the world with our students, interacting with various religious leaders in dozens of houses of worship. Swamishri's lesson in objectivity and building bridges was the foundation for my trips to Jordan, Syria, India, Israel, Italy, Tanzania, Turkey, and Egypt, and lectures in my classroom in New York City. Swamishri reminded me that to embrace all, one must travel, engage, and learn with an open mind. Bridges are built over time and with an open mind, patience, and effort. Swamishri put in that effort. And with those wise words from Swamishri, let us pause our reading of In Love at ease there for now. So thank you for listening. And what a wonderful message of inclusivity and embracing all.